Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Eden X INKSI-01. This is a handheld printer that connects to your smartphone and allows you to print on virtually any surface, whether that's traditional paper or rounded surfaces, including balloons, cups, things that have a bit of depth that would ordinarily not fit into a printer, claiming to work on various fabrics, including shirts, wood, plastics, so on and so forth, even on skin, if you want a temporary tattoo of some sort, including QR codes, barcodes, logos, and of course text. And the cartridges in this mini handheld printer claim to work for around 600 pages of A4 sized text before it runs dry, 20 milliliter capacity, and there is also an optional accessory coming in the future where you can snap it into to kind of transform it into a regular office style printer. It will move from left to right, but you can also detach it and use it in the handheld mode. 1200 dpi in terms of resolution, which is going to be relatively sharp. Here's a closer look at, again, that optional desktop accessory, making it a pretty good choice for DIY projects as well. Again, if you're trying to sell things, decorate things, so on and so forth. And the app also allows you to print segment by segment. For instance, a larger image you can divide into a couple of rows and then use a few passes to print out. It is compatible with both iOS and Android alike, connecting with either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and is priced at roughly $200, which is in line with other handheld printers on the market. It has kind of an interesting transparent look as well. You can kind of see through, and some of the specs are also iterated on the rear, relatively light at around 130 grams. And inside the packaging, we have just the printer itself, which we'll take a closer look at in a moment. Down below here, we also have just a standard USB Type-C, as well as two additional ink cartridges are provided in this kit. So we have both a red ink cartridge, which might be a little bit more kind of vibrant, in addition to a black ink cartridge. And further down below here, we have also just a quick user guide. In addition to a alignment tool, you'll be able to more easily print row by row and stitch different images together in a slightly cleaner way. So it comes in two pieces, including clips that you can use to attach the paper, and then you'll be able to then print kind of section by section just by sliding it down instead of doing it by eye. And of course, the printer itself will just be sitting on the top section there. So this is one accessory that I haven't seen before included on other handheld printers, and it's a neat little extra, even though it's not the automated version. And it looks like for demonstration purposes, the second box also contains the other color ink cartridges of green and blue. So in total, we have all the possible colors that they're currently manufacturing, and when they run out, you can of course pick up more replacements. That being said, keep in mind that you are only printing out one color at a time of what's being inserted into the handheld printer. So you can choose the color that you like the most, but if you're printing a photo, for instance, it's not going to be really RGB unless you're going over the same image multiple times and swapping out the cartridge due to the more compact design. That is a difference compared to something like a Z-Ink printer, for instance, that has the crystals embedded in the special paper that you might see in a Polaroid or Kodak Instant camera, and those can produce full color images. Those are also compact printers, but work in a different way since it is reactive to heat. It's a thermal printer compared to this one still is a inkjet based regular printer, instead of for family photos, more suited for text as well as QR codes and DIY projects. And now a closer look at the mini printer. We have just a start and pause key here at the very top, in addition to a power key at the bottom, along with USB Type-C for charging, and the see-through shell continues on all four sides of the mini printer. There's a door that you can open up on the front to pop in the ink cartridge, and we're able to pull off the back plate here that will prevent the ink from drying out when it's not in use because of the rubber gaskets, and there are some micro wheels at the bottom to make it feel smoother as you're gliding around different surfaces. So let's start the demonstration by using the black ink cartridge, which we can then go ahead and just pop in. It'll then be locked into place, and we can close it up and start using the printer. So overall, it is quite compact and easy to operate. You can even pop it into a backpack without too many issues. That being said, maybe one aspect of the design that could be possibly improved on in a future revision would be using some magnets for the door as well as the protective cap. Everything here is attaching using clips, so it requires a little bit more force for you to pry it open compared to magnets, which might have been a little bit more elegant, but overall still is functional enough. And now turning on the mini printer, you can see there's some status LED lights on the front as well, so it's going after this entire cyberpunk design quite well, illuminating even in a slightly darker environment. And next we can open up the INKSI app, and from here tap on connect to your printer. Bluetooth might be a little bit faster for pairing, but Wi-Fi could possibly be helpful if you're trying to print larger images or text and you're sending a lot of data over to the printer. The bandwidth will be a little larger. But let's start with the recommended mode here first. Pair, and after a couple of seconds you can hear there is a beep, so there is a chime speaker built into here as well for notifications, and the lights will stop flashing. The printer is now connected, although perhaps one other aspect they could add in a future update to the app would be also showing the power percentage remaining, and from here you have a couple of features. The first one is OCR, and this mode is used for scanning in text or a document. It should be able to then transcribe that into text for you to print out in a more legible way. Or you can also try handwriting, although the accuracy might be a little bit lower there if you're slightly more sloppy. And instead of notes and text, you can also scan an ID, for instance, a driver's license or a passport. And you can also click on photo printing. So in this demo, let's say I wanted to print out this hello image. I have also an editor view where I can further change the positioning of the image as well as the aspect ratio, apply some different filters, including effects like a sketch. I can also remove color, invert it, as well as an edit tab here allows us to doodle over the image, making the font here thicker or thinner, as well as apply other kind of special arrows in addition to circles for annotation purposes, as well as an eraser function. So let's say I'm satisfied. You can also rescale the size of this image to be larger or smaller. And this print preview screen is kind of interesting because you can even add other images onto here as well and print them all out at the same time, in addition to enter some text mixed in with the image. For example, it will now show up here on the side, writing something like hello world just to serve as demonstration, plus change properties like the font, as well as the size, and also make it bold, italicize, and even align it into different places. You can also make certain text or images transparent and stack multiple layers, kind of similar to on Photoshop, and you can lock certain layers into place and then print out the final mixed result. Under the material page is where you can also find some 3D shapes, and once again, all of these objects you can rescale in their size, position, as well as even rotate them around. So this could be helpful for architecture or engineering students, if you are in school, for example, looking at geometry. Other examples like this force diagram, as well as even symbols for things like science, if you're trying to label it out onto a sticker after you print it and use it for organization purposes, can also be found. And kind of the final section here under Other is where you can print out a QR code or a barcode. It is going to be generated after you enter a URL, so you can type the information in and see how the kind of code there will change in real time. Pretty neat. And you can also choose other encoding styles, data matrix, so on and so forth, other standards. So it will send a preview first onto our device. It will kind of look something like this, because right now we have a black and white ink cartridge. So you can see how the image there will scale accordingly. You can also change the aspect ratio, compressed or lossless if you want higher detail. First, taking a couple of seconds to transfer the file over to the printer, and then you can tap on print. It'll be saved onto the memory here temporarily. So until you overwrite it, you can continue tapping on print and essentially print out infinite duplicates of the same image or text. So for instance, if you're a small seller or a store and you're printing a barcode or a price tag that is consistent, you can just tap on it once and continue printing it repeatedly until you overwrite the memory with a new image or text. We can tap on Start and it will turn green. Simply press down now on the printer and then go at a pretty consistent rate. You'll hear the beep, and that means the print has finished. And as we can see, the overall result is really not bad due to the slightly higher kind of DPI as well as, again, resolution of this handheld printer. It actually is looking quite clear and legible, even for the barcodes and QR codes. Not that different from a regular office printer when it comes to the quality, but again, might be a little bit more useful if you're trying to print on curved objects and surfaces. Let's try printing that hello world on a bottle instead. Actually, it's not bad, although at first it may take a little bit of acclimation to get used to, but after one or two attempts you'll get the hang of it, and it really is not bad for some DIY type projects. Although if you are printing on plastic, it may take a little bit longer for it to completely dry. So again, depending on your project needs, you can also try other objects, including phone cases, decorating it with your favorite logo, bottles, things like that. And moving into another demo, let's also try printing on fabric this time around. A t-shirt, gloves in this instance, so on and so forth. We can tap on Start, and now continuing to roll along, giving it a couple of seconds to completely dry since it is an inkjet water type based printer. But all in all, really not bad in terms of detail and legibility for the barcode. And to illustrate the repeated printing capability, we can just tap on it again with the existing image that we just sent over, and we can continue to print along into multiple rows and repeat the same print onto multiple objects. You only need to send the image over once and then you are good to go. This test also illustrates how, of course, you can choose different colored objects to print on, and that might make the image pop a little bit more, even though the ink itself is going to be the same color until you swap out the cartridge. And case in point, we also printed the same text out onto the plastic bottle here as well. The only thing I will say though is for objects which are rounded, you have to be a little bit careful that it has enough width for the wheels to actually touch on the surface as it's printing. More specifically, it needs to be at least 2 or 3 inches wide. Otherwise, if the wheels aren't touching, it may smear on the object. So if you're trying to print on a really tiny 3D object, like a small keychain, it still might be a little bit difficult, but something that has at least the size of this printer, you'll be able to operate really without too many issues. Let's also try printing out a larger image using the stitch functionality. So in this demo, we're going to choose a more intricate, larger image with detail, taking about 3 sections for it to fully print out. And here is a preview of what that will look like. Start to kind of slide along, and then it tells us to basically move to the next row, so we can align it using the tool. Tap again to start. And the entire stitched image will look something like this. It may take a little bit of acclimation to get used to though, because at first it seems like there's a slightly larger gap between the different rows if you're just moving the tool until the last point where the ink is visible. You have to leave a little bit of additional ink kind of overlapping to get a more continuous result. That being said, even some of the imperfections here I still think look quite cool from this kind of DIY perspective. That being said, if you want it to look perfect, it definitely will take a bit of trial and error, practice mostly, and also perhaps the automated tool might be handy there, but this serves as an example. And I suppose the main takeaway is the level of detail in the print really is not shabby for such a small handheld printer. And in similar fashion, you can also print out Word documents as well as PDFs, but this will also require a bit of trial and error, again using the stitch functionality that might be a little bit easier with the automated tool. The other features on the companion app allow you to check out files that you have saved. This will become your gallery for more quickly sharing over to the printer at a click, since the printer only can store the current one in its built-in memory. You can also find additional settings here to change the OCR detection language from English to Chinese or Japanese, as some other options for handwriting recognition, as well as under printer settings, this is where you can change the printer quality from 300 dpi, which will be a little bit not quite as detailed, but slightly faster to print compared to the highest quality, checking for firmware updates, and also a default power on printing mode. So if there's a text that you always want to default to, such as a barcode or hello, you can also set it to just become that message during boot up. Finally, there's also a print head cleaning mode, clearing it from any residue ink that might be on it after a print. So if we try this out, we can click on Start Cleaning and then Begin, resulting in a small uniform block before wiping it down. We've now swapped over to the red ink cartridge, and let's see how that functions. Should be really in the same way. Legibility still seems to be decent for text as well as barcodes, and for images you would probably want to expand on the size. Not bad overall, I would say, as long as you are relatively consistent with your motion, but after you master the speed, overall it is working well enough, as we can see here. So you can choose between those different colors, whether it's red, green, blue, or the regular black. So that is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of the Eden X INKSI-01, and indeed something like this can be quite neat if you're trying to print, again, barcodes, text onto different surfaces, materials including fabrics, as well as paper, wood, particularly objects which are rounded that might be hard to do compared to a regular printer. This is going to be able to achieve, plus you have that added tool for easier alignment, although the automated one will definitely make it easier to print out images as well as text, documents which are full-sized, transforming it into a 2-in-1 printer that can be used in daily situations for documents as well as for barcode and kind of DIY project cases. So a pretty neat little handheld printer overall. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That has been the Eden X INKSI-01.